You ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you. All right, we're going to call the Monday, March 2nd, 2020 Park and Recreation Commission meeting to order. The first thing on the agenda is our public information hearing about our splash pad. Rick, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our presenter here.
Okay, so we hired Schmidt Design Group out of Orange because they had a lot of experience with designing splash pads and in rain gardens. And one of the things that we had said in the specifications is we want to find a way that we can recapture at least some of the water. And they have a lot of experience with doing that with these rain gardens. They're called rain gardens, but rain garden sounds like it's watered by rain. But the idea is to get it watered from the water that comes off the splash pad. But they're very qualified, and we're happy that they've been working with us on this. And Mandy Sorrentino and her committee have done a great job with bringing this whole concept to the community. It was a community-initiated project, came from a group of folks who said, hey, we'd like to have a splash pad, we'd like it. We looked at a couple places, and the Jacobs Beach seemed the best place to do it. And they've been doing some fundraising. We still have a little ways to go for the fundraising, but they're making progress on that. And with that, Tom or Phil, you want to describe the project a bit?
Thanks, Rick. It's a pleasure being here tonight to talk about the splash pad. I'm going to explain that, first of all, when people think of splash pad, they think of these big water parks. That's not what we're doing here. This is a very small splash pad that it's about 1,500 square feet, and it has some water jets coming out. So it's going to be very low and non-invasive to views to the water and stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And Phil, why don't you go to the next. So here's Jacob Beach, the entire property. When we started looking at this, we wanted to check out at least two locations. We looked at one test pit area over by the pavilion. We thought that'd be a nice spot for it. And then the second alternative was to nestle it in next to the existing vegetation, just off the grass and onto the sand. We also, in doing this, Rick wanted us to take a look at how many additional parking spaces we can get out there, just in case there is some overflow needs. These parking spaces aren't going to be permanent. They're just lined with white chalk. So you'll be driving on the grass for them. So we were able to get an additional 51 parking spaces in that lawn area, and it won't interfere with some of the summer events that happen out there. Phil, go to the next slide. So we did some test pits out there to make sure we knew that we can't hook up to any of the sanitary sewers around the area. It's just not feasible. So we knew we had to percolate the water in some fashion. So the test pit by the pavilion, as you can see, we got down about 18 inches and we hit clay. And clay just persists for the next 8 feet. You can see the ball of soil in Phil's hand there. It's just, you could probably make pots out of that stuff. So we said, well, that's probably not the smartest place to put a splash pad that we need to infiltrate the water into. So we looked at the beach as well, and we got down 8 feet, and you can see the difference of the two holes. We got pure, nice sand there, so we're going to have some good perking soils in that area. Next. So here's the splash pad itself. It's, like I said, it's about 1,500 square feet. As you walk in, you have an accessible walk from the existing pathway to that little blue dot. That little blue dot is a sensor that you push it, and that's your smart control. It sends a signal out to all the water heads, and they usually do 4 to 6, maybe sometimes 8 sprays at one time, and it goes in a circuit. So we have an area for the older kids, and then we have an area for the little kids, so they're not bumping into each other. Not that they're not going to, but we're trying. We also have some benches that surround the area, and we have some boulders on one side with a little grass dune, and we also put a little grass dune on the water side so we can catch any sand that's blowing that way. And if the if there is a storm event, it could help stop water from going into that. If it's a major hurricane, all bets are off on that. So what we have is all the water is being brought to either that little blue dot, the drain, and then that's piped to a underground galley underneath the sand that you will not see, and it's a percolation galley. And then the rest of the water is heading towards those 2 rain gardens on the back side. And just before the rain gardens, we have what we call tidal pools, and they'll have little rocks in there also, so the water can just puddle in there and the kids can play with it, and then it'll sheet off into the rain gardens. One of the things that we did is we're using concrete out there. It'll be a light broom finish. A lot of people have asked, why can't you use something that's softer and rubberized? And we talked to several manufacturers' reps, and the manufacturers' reps, even though they have that product, they all said to me, do not install this because it doesn't last and it costs a fortune. So we steered away from that, but to bring some interest into the pad itself, we are stamping the concrete with animal prints and tracks. So kids and adults can learn about the fauna that's out there and the birds and stuff. And it's a real fun way of kind of echoing what's happening out out there on the beach. So the next slide are the different sprays that we're going to have out there. You can see they're all ground fountains. So when it's off, you're not going to see anything. The only little guy is a 18-inch high turtle up in the upper right-hand side. It's in the toddler area. The kids love to play with those, and they spin around and stuff. So that's the only real physical thing that you're going to be able to see out there. And when you hit that button, another misconception is if a kid goes over there and hits it 20 times, it's only going to go through one cycle. They have to go back there and hit it again for it to start up. So the amount of water that's going to actually be pouring out of here, we're calculating about 9,000 gallons per day, and that's what our infiltration galleys are calling for. And so it'll go into the rain gardens. It'll start seeping in there. Whatever gets too high will go into drains, into the galleys, and then it'll start perking into the sand. Phil, why don't you go to the next one? This is another typical rain garden on your right-hand side. This is at Johnston Oak Park in Bridgeport. We planted them up as heavy as we can. We use native materials. We try to make it very minimal for maintenance. We don't want Rick and his people having to go out there all the time yanking weeds and stuff, so we try to use nice natural plants for that. And then you can see the animal tracks that we'd be stamping in. There's coyotes there. There's a great blue herring up on top. They also have some fish and crabs and starfish and stuff like that. And we'll put those in the tide pool, so it'll be really interactive for the kids to play with. With that, that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I can take questions from the audience, if there's any. It's wheelchair accessible, and I've also noticed in a lot of these splash pads that we do around this state and other states, you get a fair amount of seniors that like to go in them too, or even people my age, and well, I am a senior, so the heck. Mandy's age. And we try to keep a zone of 5 feet all the way around the splash area, so that's a no spray zone. So, yes, ma'am.
Includes the rain garden,
Yes.
and that's going to be supported by donations.
Yes.
Okay, has any effort been made to find out the cost of supplying water, or is there an electrical cost involved?
The electrical is very minor. It's the same type of electrical. It's low voltage, the same as that you use for your irrigation system. So there's a battery pack that's going to be over at the existing pavilion that has the 120 volt to it. And that line will be low voltage all the way to the pad, and it'll run it from there. In terms of water, Rick did a budget I gave him some numbers for it with 9,000 gallons per day. We figure quarter of the time, because of bad weather or overcast, people won't be using it. What did your budget come out to?
About $7,200 roughly.
Okay. For the season. We're assuming that it's going to start on Memorial Day and end on Labor Day.
So what are the implications for, the rest of the taxpayers? I know that the donations are going towards the development of this, but what about the maintenance in terms of the 7,200?
The money for the, you mean the money for the water?
Yeah.
That will be part of the Park and Recreation's budget. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
How many children at one time can use the slide?
You can get a couple dozen in there. So it's a pretty big bang for your buck when you're out there. It gets a little tight, but we also have a little bit of play equipment down below. There's a wooden tunnel and some stepping logs, so they can jump out of there and play on that if they want, then go back into the water as well. But you can get quite a few kids in there.
Any other questions? Okay, any comments?
So is this an approved initiative? What are the next steps in terms of the development?
Next step is to go to P&Z for approval. We've already submitted our CAM permit. The state came back with some minor questions, but they weren't minor. They weren't major.
It went to where for approval?
CAM permit, coastal area management. We've been to the design review board and got approval from them as well. And the Parks Board already approved it. Question, comment?
Is this our time to complete?
I think so. If you, yes, just if you want to come up and introduce yourself, and certainly,
Up to you. No, that's
No.
all right. Come on.
no, I think his presentation
Pretty much done.
is pretty much done. So now we're open to hear any comments.
And just your name and address. My name is Valerie Fu, 1595 Little Meadow Road. I'm here in support of the splash pad at Jacobs Beach. I'm a mother of 2 young children and would love this added asset to our town. I believe it will blend beautifully with the current landscape of the park, and people will travel into our town to use it, which will promote our local businesses as well. Another thought that I had when watching this and discussions about the water usage, I do want to remind people that we don't have a town pool. As a matter of fact, when I moved into this town, sorry, Park and Rec, I was rather disappointed by what we had in our town with playgrounds. It was a big adjustment. I was like, where's the playgrounds? And someone told me Bittner, and I went there and I said, this is our playground? I know there's Jacobs, and I was a little bit disappointed. I love our town. I think that this will be a really great asset to what we currently have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the time and everyone's effort in this project. Thank you.
Richard Wallis, 386 North River Street. Speaking as a grandparent of 3 under 3. Going back 2 years, when the twins were starting to be mobile, we took them to splash pads, but we had to go from Guilford to Saybrook or East Haven. For the economics of this project and the value that it adds to the town's quality of life, I just see it's a no-brainer.
Thank you. Can you come up and introduce yourself, and so we can, to the microphone? Can you come to the microphone so everybody can hear you, and introduce yourself, please?
Patricia Keegan, I live on Peddlers Road. I don't have any children living with me at the present time. They're all too old to go and use a splash pad. I guess I'm just concerned as a taxpayer in terms of the added tax implications, and it seems to me that that's been already accounted for by the Park and Rec budget. The other concern I have is the use of it by other than Guilford residents. Is that an issue that you see can be something that we have to deal with?
I don't know that we see that as a huge problem. As Jacob's Beach, you have to have a beach pass.
Correct.
So most people who use it are residents, and then we do have a fee structure for people who are not residents, and they would have to pay.
You have to pay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we don't anticipate that there's going to be a huge influx of people coming to use this.
Okay, I just wondered that because of the comment about the increased parking area.
The increased parking area is not necessarily meant for the splash pad. We have events down there. Summer Sizzler, yeah, the name went right out of my head. Where there's a lot of people who go in. There's a couple of senior events where you get, over 100 seniors.
Okay.
And so that parking is really meant for that kind of overflow,
Okay.
not necessarily the,
Okay.
but since we had the architect working on this, we wanted to get it all
Okay. I
done
was
at the
just
same time.
concerned.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we don't anticipate that's going to be part of the splash pad problem,
Thank you.
no.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Sinclair, 822 Little Meadow Road. Mandy came to Rotary last week and gave a presentation of the splash pad, and it was pretty impressive, Mandy, what you and the design firm have planned here and how this is being rolled out. Pretty sure all of Rotary agreed that we're going to put our support behind this in terms of some monetary support to help offset the cost to the community. I think that this is a fantastic plus for the Jacob's Beach facilities, and I think it's going to be a great thing for the families in the communities. I know my grandchildren and great-grandchildren eventually will love it. So for that reason, I'm in full support of the splash pad program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eddie Kaloji, 2371 Boston Post Road. I'm in favor of the splash pad, and I'd like to tell you all why. I've worked with Special Olympics for over 35 years, and the kids are always looking for something to do. Not only the kids, but the parents, their siblings, anybody that knows how hard it is to raise one of these children would love this, because just another avenue to go down, especially when you have wheelchairs available for them. It's a no-brainer to me. I also think that people seeing other people that have maybe, something wrong with their legs, they can't walk, it makes your kids interact with those kids. So it gives them an understanding. Yeah, they're in a chair, but they're no different than you and I. So I hope that this passes, it goes through. I'll even go down there and get splashed.
Thank you. Well, it's meant for seniors as well when you reach that age. Anyone else? Oh. One more.
Alyssa Stevens, 12 Surrey Lane in Guilford. I just want to voice my support too for the splash pad. I have two young children, and when you take them to parks or out to the water, it can be difficult, challenging, and sometimes scary. So I think this is a really great way to have access to the water in a safe way. I'm also an advocate for kids getting outside. As we know, a lot of our kids today spend a lot of time on screens inside, not doing things outside. And I think having this available in our community will hopefully get them off the screens and get them outside, which is definitely a positive. So I'm in full support as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Wow. All right. Yeah, it's been easier than we had expected. Okay, so we do appreciate your coming. We're going to go on with our regular meeting. You're welcome to stay if you want to hear it at all, but you're also welcome to leave if you don't want to sit through the whole meeting. Okay. So, that being said, we've gone through public forum.
I just want to let the rest of the commission know that
Correspondence. Oh, okay, hang on one second, all right? Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have quite a bit of correspondence here. Oh, and we're still handing out papers. All right. We have more coming here
It's just stuff that's I can get for later on.
for later on? Okay. All right.
You all have enough light? Want one more light, or we're okay?
I can
see
see.
all right?
I think we're good.
I'm good.
We're good. Um, All right. So since we're talking about the skate park, Claire, you want to?
Splash pad?
Splash pad, I meant.
Please don't bring me back. So, since we're on correspondence and we're on splash pad, there were 6 emails that came to Rose and I in favor of the splash pad. We had Diane Hall, who wholeheartedly supported the splash pad, thinks it would be a wonderful addition. Amanda Francis sends her support and thinks it's a great sense of community in Guilford and would be a wonderful place for family and children to gather. Robin Valono, is that right? She expresses her support for the splash pad. It's an asset. She has grandchildren and future generations will enjoy it. Allison says, all the same, she thinks that it's an accessible facility, which is a great place to put it, and is for the splash pad. Then we have Lindsay. She's unable to attend tonight, but wanted to let us know that she was strongly in support of the splash pad. And then Danielle Bologno expressed the same, that it was a great place for it, it's accessible, and looks forward to hopefully seeing it this summer.
Okay. And then we also have one in our packet from Lindsay Fiandella, again expressing support for the splash pad. So those are all the splash pads. The other correspondence we have, to Ellen, and it's singing the praises for Ian and Nicole. I'm not exactly sure. I think this was a cooking class that they had done?
It's it's a cooking class with special needs. It's unified cooking,
Okay,
and it's really gone great.
great, okay. They weren't real clear, but I thought that's what this was.
Yeah.
So, yes, apparently that's gone over well. We have the request for a memorial bench for the bocce. I believe that would come, we would talk about that later. And the lacrosse, is that on later as well, Rick?
It is.
Okay. And the Lafayette Trail wants to put, I guess this is just informational, right? They want to put a marker on the green. We don't really have anything to do with
That's
putting
kind of under,
markers
I can
on
talk
the-
about that more in the
Green
Green
Committee?
Committee.
Okay,
That was just some background information I can go at.
okay. So we'll take care of that when we get there.
The funny thing about this, though, I mean, it doesn't say who it's from, who it's to.
It was handed out at the Green Committee meeting, and so I just
Oh,
want to
okay.
include it in the packet. And I
You'll
think
address that
I'll
later?
go over that.
All right, oh, you just said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's move along and approve the minutes of the February 3rd, 2020 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 3rd, 2020 meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussions, any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
The bills. Any questions, any concerns on the bills? We all good?
I saw nothing.
All right. No questions? So a motion to accept the bills? Approve the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the February bills. And are we doing the total?
Yeah.
In the total of $80,150.14.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I just have an informational question regarding the bills. I mean, it's acceptable, but family tree care, $1,900 for tree removal at Long Hill Park.
It was a lot of trees, 6, 8 trees, maybe quite a few trees that were between Long Hill Park and Long Hill Farms. And Kevin McGee had looked at them and found that they were, a lot of them were dying, and so they really should be removed, because they were going to fall toward the homes there on Long Hill, or on the goalpost in Long Hill Park.
There were
So
a couple trees.
that was done back in the fall, but we just got the bill.
Okay, there were a couple of trees at Bittner Park by the soccer field, by the parking lot.
Yeah.
Will we take those down, or
We
do we
can do
hire,
those.
or we hire somebody?
We can do those, they're small enough, but the tree warden has to post them and, give us permission to do it.
Okay, department reports. Rick?
I think half of what, about 90% of what's on my report is on the agenda. But I will mention, it's on the agenda too, but I'll mention is on number 10, so some of you may remember a number of years ago, there was hazardous waste collection at Hammonasset. They used to do it, but now you have to go to New Haven. So I'm not sure where it started from. It came from our town engineer or first selectman, but they want to host it in Guilford. And so I met at Bittner Park with the town engineer and the Haz Waste officials, and the date would be April 18th. I did check with Little League. It's the week before their opening day, so there's no conflict there. Soccer doesn't start yet. We don't open the Bittner Field yet. So we would just have to shut the park down in the morning, from 7 a.m. to about 1 p.m. roughly, because it'll be, could be 200 or 300 people coming there to bring their
That doesn't really affect anything going on there.
No, the park will be closed, so no one will be able to go in and use the park during that time.
Okay.
So we'd have to officially close it. We'll get signs out. That's why I put it on the agenda too, but just want to make sure the commission's aware of that and okay with that. But it's pretty much the only place in town that they thought they could do it, because you have to have a long entrance.
That's right.
And be a place to turn around.
and go out, yeah.
Yeah.
Conservation Commission used to do it at the transfer station.
Oh, yeah? But it's been a while since it's been in Guilford, and I know I got a bunch of stuff I've been holding on to, waiting for an opportunity to bring it somewhere, so I'm glad. But that'll be at Bittner Park on that date.
Okay.
And again, Little League is already aware of it. And as I mentioned, soccer, we don't open that field up that early anyway. So we'll have signs up, so if people want to play disc golf, they're not going to be able to get in that morning, or hike, or use the skate park.
That is a Saturday, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and who's the collection? Clean Harbors?
I'm not sure the name of the company. I don't know.
They're the ones who do the one at the water company.
It might be the same one then.
Good group.
Okay. Park foreman's report. Boy, the weather's been with us, guys.
Yeah. I'm going to highlight something. Tony's been able to, and the crew have been able to do some things. If you look at the fourth bullet, Vertiquake, that's aerating 6 fields.
Wow.
We've never done that in February. So it's great, because usually when we get into April, the guys are going crazy trying to play catch-up, and usually just rain or snow melt or whatever, and trying to get on fields is a challenge. And so, because the weather's been so good, Tony just said to me, hey, I think I can do it. Let's go do it. And so, even some of the edging of some of the infields, the Little League fields, they've been able to do, and putting down stone dust, like at bullpens and batting cages and warning tracks. It's unheard of to be able to do that in February, and so they're taking advantage of the weather and they're doing it. Also, if you look maybe about 2/3 of the way down, they're building handicapped accessible tables that, we know we've been talking about this at Chaffetch Island, but also we'll have one at Jacobs and one at Lake Quantapug. And the last thing I'll mention, the soil samples. Tony's been doing a good job of doing this on fields anyway. Now we're looking at town buildings like here, library, I think the green, other non-field places. And we have found that the results of some of these soil samples are that we need to bring some nutrients into the soils and bring up the pH with lime. And so that's part of the plan we'll be doing for the spring.
Rick, to start rebuilding Jacob's Boardwalk?
That's the boardwalk that goes down to the, at the boat racks. And because part of them are in the water, they rot out.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's rebuilding
I'm
some
thinking
of
of the other boardwalk. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Got it,
Oh, yeah, not the boardwalk. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, okay.
it's the access to the, for boating.
Got it. Thanks.
Just a question about the high school fields. The two new high school fields, now that they're going to be completely online, are the sports clubs assigned a specific field? Is lacrosse going to do the turf field and soccer the grass field, or is it just going to be, how is it going to be set up?
So we have, I meet every year with the spring sports groups. We met about 3 weeks ago, I guess. And from that, we kind of look at who needs what. And then we send out a list saying, all right, for practices, soccer has this, lacrosse has this. But for games, they have to send a schedule. We don't schedule anything for games. Weekends are kind of up in the air. I don't say up for grabs. So they have to send us a schedule. And then we schedule in, what the needs are there. But we already have heard from lacrosse and soccer, they both want to use the synthetic turf fields this year. So it's great that's back online because we need it. And we've already gotten some requests for it.
Is the lacrosse club still using County Road as a practice field?
They do early, yeah, they may be up there now, but early spring they do use it, yes.
Okay.
All right. Recreation supervisor. Any questions or comments?
Just got emailed the new brochure today.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you know what,
Brochure's out.
10 minutes after it's out, we already had 35 registrations.
Wow.
Within 10, 15 minutes of
I
it
had
being out.
people definitely
online.
asking me when it was coming out, so people were waiting.
Yeah.
Eager.
And I highlighted the Unified Cooking Program, which I already mentioned, and then April Vacation Camp is coming up, Earth Fest, which was a big hit. Last year, we moved it from the fairgrounds to Baldwin. We're going to go there again because, if there's bad weather, we got, it's inside most of it.
That was good last year, I remember.
Yeah, it worked out great. And then I don't think it's on here, but the April 4th is the extravaganza Easter egg hunt in the green.
Yes.
That's coming up pretty
So,
soon.
Rick, Ellen's report, she attended juvenile review board meeting. How is she involved in that now?
She's our representative from our department to
Okay.
that. Yeah, there's people from youth services and our department and some other departments there, and she's our representative there.
Okay. Seniors report. Busy, busy, busy.
Yeah, the Connecticut Flower
That's all
Show
we can say,
trip
it's
last
busy.
week, or 2 weeks ago, we had 3 buses go there. We had like 50-something people go to the flower show. And opening day for SIL is coming up in 2 days. There's going to be a Coast Guard band performance here on that day, or part of the band.
And as usual, a lot of meals and a lot of travel.
For the St. Patrick's Luncheon, are we asking for help serving from the commission?
Probably, but she hasn't said yet.
Okay.
But we'll send an email out if we need help.
Okay.
And I think help is always welcome, so
And I have to say, if you can do it, it's fun.
it is fun. Okay, and maintenance, pretty much. Any questions on that? We're making progress.
Septic, did we find out what our issue is?
Oh, man, the day of the Winter Festival, the same thing happened last year.
Yeah,
Our
again.
septic backed up, and we had to close the bathrooms. I was able, within half an hour, I got a couple porta-johns here, and we got, our septic contractor came, and they cleaned it out. There was actually mud in the line, I mean, literally mud. And so, they came back with a camera. I don't know, did Todd say? They came back with a camera.
Yeah.
No, so the pipe is all right, but they're recommending we should get a bigger pipe. I think it's a 6-inch. They're suggesting maybe a 10 or a larger pipe to put under there. It just, basically it's from the building to the parking lot. It's not a long run, but the sidewalk would have to be dug up, the pipe, and at some point we got to look at that. Maybe we'll get a cost for it, and something we either got to afford next year's budget.
We just can't keep
or-
having this happen, Ruth. I think we have to really look at
Yeah.
this.
It's,
Once is bad enough.
it's been more than once, but it happened,
Same
ironically,
event.
last year, the same thing, the same event, it didn't work, things were backing up and happened again. So yes, we have to, we can't keep letting that happen. And it had just been pumped out like about 3 weeks before, so it wasn't because it was fall or anything.
Yeah. But I think we do need to continue to look into that.
Just a couple of questions. I was at Bittner Park yesterday, and the sign that we had at the entrance to the park is missing.
We take them all down in the winter.
Okay.
We rent it, if they need painting or whatever, we do it, but yeah. And so snow plows don't hit it.
Okay, are we
Yeah.
going to put another sign on the opposite side?
We
so-
talked about that. I think,
Yes, so people from each direction can
I
see?
think we got it. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. I think we ordered 3 signs. One was a 3-mile course park sign. I'm pretty sure Bittner was one of them we got. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that's one that we ordered, because I knew you had asked about
Yep.
that.
And the other thing, at the top where at top of the parking lot where you head towards the opening of the disc golf course, you have 2 little signs there that are on a wooden stake.
I told her I got to take them down. Yeah.
Well, no, I
That
mean,
was from
but
the-
they're informational, but
From
they're,
the turf.
but the wind has folded them in
Yeah.
half. That makes them useless.
We don't really need them there anymore. That was back when we had the grand opening. I said, I was up
Okay.
there a couple of weeks ago too, and I said, we don't need them here anymore. We can take them
Well,
down.
actually, they provide a direction as to
Yeah.
where to go to get to the disc golf course. It's just that maybe if we just enhance them a little bit and make them a little bit more sturdy. And the other thing I was going to ask too is we don't have, that's a beautiful kiosk that the Boy Scouts built up there. And
Yeah.
it's nice that you made the decision to add all the Boy Scouts who did the
Right.
golf course on the back side of it. That's perfect. Another project for Boy Scouts. Is it possible that we can get another kiosk up there that has trail map on it of the Bittner trail system?
I thought there was one up there.
It was. It collapsed a few years back, and we took it down. It just fell apart. That was built by the Friends of Bittner Trails.
Okay.
They had built that, and they put it up, and it was there for probably, I'm going to say, 6 or 8 years, and it fell apart.
Is there a way we can maybe just do like a paper and, like a fold-out or something and attach it to the kiosk that's already there? I mean, we don't want to keep filling up kiosks
Yeah,
everywhere.
we could. We have, I think we have some maps
Yeah.
here. We can make some. That's an idea.
And just get it as part of the, part of the kiosk there. I mean, how many kiosks can we have up there?
Yeah,
Well,
use
side by side, they would be perfect because, again, you're honoring the Boy Scouts who made the disc golf course possible. And also you have the map of the disc golf course on one side. So if we had another kiosk that has the trail maps, like we do at all the other trailheads, like at the Timberlands or at Westwoods, it would give people an idea how to navigate the trails. And somebody had just gone through and blazed all the red trail, and it was in perfect condition.
That was Bill Johnson, who started the Friends of Bittner Trails a bunch of years ago, and he asked me if he can come back and remark those trails, so he's been doing that.
All right, let's get back to the agenda. We can here. Standing fields.
Unfortunately, I was not able to attend the Standing Fields Committee meeting this past Monday. Mostly what was talked about was the change in parking at Adams, because it was good. What is the anticipation of the town as they wish to expand the parking for the beyond the temporary classrooms, which will come very close to the fields in the back. And I asked Rick about it and John Kennedy, and they both seem to believe that the fields will not be interrupted with the expansion of the parking around the back. So we're okay with that there.
The only thing else they talked about was the high school infill project. I don't know if I said this last month or not. It's done. I mean, the new stadium is done. And Cliff Gurnham is meeting with engineers and architects now for the stadium field to replace that. So I was able to meet with him a couple of weeks ago. He had another one today I couldn't make, but they're working with getting in the process of hiring another architectural firm or engineering firm to do the design for the replacement of the stadium field. So that's in process.
Green Committee.
So there's this Lafayette Trail. They asked everyone who goes to Green Committee meetings to bring it back to their different committees.
Okay.
So you don't have to read all this if you haven't, but basically Lafayette, who was a major general, part of the Revolutionary War and a friend of George Washington, President Washington's, well, George Washington at the time, General Washington. In 1824, he was in Guilford, and they had a big welcoming for him. And so there's somebody in France is trying to create little memorial signs in all the different places that Lafayette went and where he was welcomed. And so they'd like to put it on the green. The suggestion was the northwest corner of the green. Another idea the Green Committee was talking about is, if this gets approved, would be on the maybe near the existing sign in front of Town Hall, where it has a History of Guilford sign. Maybe there, so there's not like signs all over the place. It's kind of like there's already one there, put it there.
Yeah, I agree.
So they were looking for input from the different boards. Number one, do people like the idea of a sign commemorating Lafayette's visit? And I guess, they're going all over the Northeast or wherever he's been. And if you look on the last page, it's kind of a picture of what it might look like.
Yeah.
Well, that one says Babe Ruth, or whatever, but that's similar to what the height, I guess,
Right.
and sort of the look.
It's the ones you see all over the
I
country.
Right.
hate being Mr. Pessimistic, but to me, it's just another sign no one's going to look at.
Can we give them a parking spot?
Any other comments on this? I mean, I don't know.
People, I grew up with people who always read signs, stop and
Do you?
read signs. I like them. I mean, I don't know.
But now you're going to be curious. You're going to go look at
You're
it.
gonna, I know.
No, I got it right here. I don't need to.
I mean,
I don't know.
I read them. I know.
There's enough stuff on the green as it is.
I read them.
When does it end?
Well, I think if they
But
put
this
it
is-
near the town hall where the other one is, it's really rather unobtrusive. It's not like the signs that, when we hit the green that are in front of us, that advertise. So it's kind of nice.
Do we know that he, met on the green or anything? Is there a spot in Guilford that we know that he was?
I think they know he was they know a house he was at, which I think might have been in somewhere around the green, I think. But there's whatever this committee is going all over wherever he was and wherever he was welcomed. And they say there was a parade, and a lot of people came out to meet him when he came back after being a big hero as part of the Revolutionary War. Came back in 1824, and kind of like his sort of farewell tour, I guess. So the policy for the Green Committee for any kind of signs or monuments, it has to be local or national historical significance. And so I think the Green Committee is okay with it, but they want to everybody who's involved with the green, just make sure everybody has had an opportunity to comment on it.
Land acquisition. Nothing to report.
Nothing to share.
I know. Usually you don't.
I'm not allowed to share with you.
Community center improvements, we are improving. We've got a couple of small tables for the elite room, and
Look at the
we're
ceiling.
still, yes, that ceiling wonderful.
Does it look good? It's great.
Ceiling is done, speakers in.
So, can I say, I never saw the,
Crossbeam?
before. I never noticed. It looks amazing.
Don't usually look up.
I know, but it just looks, the whole room looks different. I mean, I know it's half blocked off, probably, but.
And people have already commented, there was a sing-along that Ellen Crean does. She had mentioned, and this wasn't even done yet, and she said the acoustics were better already. And I think they only had 2 sections that were done at that time, but she could notice the difference. And that's one of the things these tiles are acoustically better than the ones we had before.
It looks beautiful.
The acoustics, I don't know what the acoustics were, but at the affordable housing meeting where it was packed, I found it very hard to hear, but I don't know if that was users with the microphones, but it was, it
You know,
was, you know, it was
somebody-
challenging, the moderator, you know, people.
Yeah, and I think,
Some people did it, but
um,
it was very difficult.
Somebody
I
else
thought.
mentioned that, and Rick and I were talking about that. We're not sure if the sound system was up working as it should have been.
And is there, like, I couldn't tell if it was coming through in the back
Yes,
or not.
that's exactly- we
And I
don't
was
know-
standing in the
we don't
back,
know if
but
the
it was
speakers are
challenging.
working.
What night of the week was that? Was it a Wednesday?
I don't remember.
Well, so not all the guys have been trained on it. We have a new sound system back there. Not all of them have been 100% trained on it. That we know they have to do it. But there's a switch, like it'll come out of here, but there's a switch to make it also come out of the ceiling in the back. And if they didn't turn that one on,
Yeah.
everything was coming from here.
I guess
Yeah.
it didn't sound like it was coming from there. People
Yeah.
knew how to hold the mic closer.
Yeah, and that
It
happens
was
too. Like even,
tough.
like when some of the ladies were talking tonight, I had trouble hearing them. You have to kind of talk right into it.
We'll work out the kinks, but
Yeah.
it is improved.
Right.
Okay, splash pad. Anything else on the splash pad? Would you like to add anything on the splash pad?
Oh, do you want to come up and say
Yeah.
anything, since you're the splash pad queen?
You're quiet during the spot.
I know. There has been a request, Mandy was saying, for 3 extra benches.
So in our original design, proposal had 4 benches laid out and those 4 benches sold and sold quickly. And in the course of like a weekend, we had 3 other people interested in, one of which I think is, had come up and had been, like, we were going to revisit.
Yes, we have that letter here. Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure we have that available for them. And then 2 other families would like to purchase benches. So we would just want to make sure that the commission is okay with
You know, I think,
7 benches rather than 4.
I was just saying, in the,
Tom had them up there.
yeah, I was, tonight I counted, and I counted 7 benches. So he did put them,
That would be what it would look like.
that's what that would look like.
I
All right.
missed that part. Would it mean the boulders would go away?
There may be slightly less boulders, it's going to ultimately depend on the size of the boulders. Right now, we have 3 boulders sold and a 4th one
Okay.
pending. There's still room for more.
I like the benches better than the boulders.
I think more people use the benches.
Me too.
Just as a parent, I mean, having the back support is nice. But we wanted to make sure that the commission was okay with that tweak in our design.
Yeah.
Given the benches.
Okay.
I really liked what that gentleman said. I hadn't thought about for differently abled, kids and adults that are there. I didn't think about the benefit to them, but I think that is an awesome point he made. I just wanted to go on record saying that.
So, no, do we have any other fundraisers coming up?
We have a number of them, I sent my paper home from that, but we have a number of them still running. So
Okay.
a couple of local residents that have some direct sales, they're running fundraisers for us. There is, Hazardous Fitness is doing our bar class on Thursday night. And we're working through scheduling a spin class with Shift Cycle. That'll be sometime this month. We haven't landed a date yet. So those are the major upcoming ones. But we're of course still open to add.
To buying bricks?
And the bricks are up and running, so we're down, I would say at this point, benches are sold out.
The Rotary was really receptive to it?
Mhm.
When you met with the Rotary, they were really receptive to it?
They were great. They were wonderful. They had a lot of questions, but I think as soon as people understand exactly what we're building, that it's not all chromey pipes and
Right.
a water park, that they're really excited about it. I think a lot of them will be down there using it. So, it's good.
All right. We're getting there.
We did have unanimous support at the Design Review Committee.
Good.
100% support of the project. So that's a good step before planning and zoning.
So the next step is to apply to planning and zoning.
Yeah, which is March 18th. And that's the last approval. If they approve it, I think we're done.
We're on the agenda for
Ready to
March
go.
18th?
Yes.
Okay.
And they have the CAM application. There were a couple comments from, I think some misunderstandings from the DEP about the project. And Tom answered some of those questions they had. And one of them was, what impact might there be on shellfishing? And I did speak with the chair of the Shellfish Commission, and they're meeting March 11th. And he said he would bring that information to the full commission, but he personally didn't think there'd be an issue because the closest shellfish bed is at Grass Island. And sand is a tremendous filter. It's the best filter there is. So, and if any water is getting through the sand, it's got a long way to get to the ocean. And if there's any, I'm not a scientist, but I would think that in a chlorine would kind of be filtered out. And there's a lot of salt in that sand, so it's going to return back to salt water by the time it gets there. So, and I'm not sure how much we get there anyway, because it's going to be very slowly come out through the perforation, the tank has got underground there. So, don't think that's going to be a problem.
All right, so the 18th, financing. Okay. All right, unfinished business. Oh, the ADA at Chaffinch and Quantico. So, Chaffinch.
Chaffinch, where we are is, again, I can't remember this happened before the last meeting, but the survey's been done. Going to be working with Mike Ott, an engineer, for the design part of it, because we have to do a CAM application for that one too. So Mike will create the plan for that, to do the application for us, and but we have the survey, so that's not correct.
All right, we're making progress.
Yeah.
So do we need to hold a public forum on that after we get the CAM application back?
Probably after we get design.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the boiler replacement. Anything?
We went out to bid and had, I think there were 14 bidders that came to the, 14 contractors, seven bid on it. And the bids ranged from, I wrote it down here, I gotta find it, $241,000 to $346,750. And so I asked the engineering firm, Silver Petroselli, to make a recommendation. They did recommend the lowest bidder. That's going to standing building tomorrow night for them to, and he's going to go to that meeting, and Steve Nyerf will go, and Todd, I'll be here for the budget workshop tomorrow night. They're going to go, and unless the standing building committee has some major problem with the people they're going to recommend, then the next step is to go to the Board of Selectmen for them to approve it. And then the money's come out of an account that Steve has for energy improvements. It's not in our budget. So it's come out of another account for that, for energy improvements. So the goal was to, I think, do the project in May or June, after the heating season is done. And then, certainly there'll be a week or two, there'll be some disruption on hot water, but part of the contract would be they have to supply like an 80-gallon tank to have hot water for the kitchen, because we need to have that. Right. So that's all part of the agreement. That's all in the specs.
All right, wow. All right, disc golf expansion, coming along?
It is. We're almost finished. And you were just telling me, John, there were about 18 people up there playing the other day?
Yesterday.
So it's getting a lot of use. And even when our guys been up there working, there's been people coming through during the weekdays in the mornings and playing. There's a tournament that our golf designer is setting up for March 21st. And last I heard, there are already 44, 45 people signed up for the tournament. We have a couple different leagues. We're advertising in our brochure a league for adults. And we're starting a disc golf club at the middle school at Adams. And so that I should be getting going this spring. And we've made arrangements. The bus will drop the kids off at right after school up at Bittner. Parents will have to pick them up, of course, but we made some arrangements for that. The young man is doing a little bit of internship with us, part-time intern. I put him on that, and his father happens to be the vice principal at Adams, so contact. But he said he spoke with the phys ed teacher there at Adams, and they think there's going to be a lot of interest in it. So eventually, I then want to go to the high school, and if we can start it as a club sport at a high school, I'd like to see it become an interscholastic sport. There are enough towns in the state that have them. There's 28 towns that have disc golf now.
Once they go to college, they're all over the place.
Yeah. So eventually, maybe it'll be a sport like golf and track and volleyball and everything else. And then we have a nice course in town.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good there.
All right, the peddler's ordinance.
You looking to me again? I met with, First Selectman Matt Hoey with our questions from way back when this first came about. Our issue with summer camp, we just, as a commission, we will write our own notes to the Board of Selectmen to include, like a little addendum to their peddler's ordinance, that no one will be allowed at Jacobs till after 3:30. We will also include in there that we, as a commission, reserve the right to have special vendors for special events. So if we wanted to have a food truck for summer camp for whatever reason, we could. As well as if there are parties, private parties down there, we will have the ability to have vendors, not the first come, first serve. Yeah, that was really it.
And that we don't want them at Quanapog?
Yes, that we absolutely do not want them at Quanapog, which we will
For
have to
safety
put there
reasons.
in that as well, as a bullet.
Right.
Because if it's not written, then it can't be enforced.
Okay. So we're going to get this in writing and get it to the selectman's office. Okay.
Okay, same thing with the regulations. Did we send that to them already, Rick, the
I think we
regulations?
sent that, but I think I just handed it out.
You
so everybody
handed
see
it
what
out
we
again,
sent.
just so people could see what we, yeah.
And when I did some research, and I think you did too, Rose, we found that there already was an ordinance, or is an ordinance that says that, grilling can only be in designated areas, so that pretty much eliminates it happening in a parking lot, because it's not a designated area.
But when I met with Matt, I brought this up as well, and he was very specific that we should change the wording to make sure it said in grilling areas only, because it said open fire before.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that it includes grilling, and that we will definitely need to have that posted.
Okay, so we basically, if we're looking at this,
Right.
we just want to add is unlawful to kindle or make an open fire or grill in any other area other than designated.
Right. So, I mean, it's just a matter of adding the word grill.
Isn't it already in there? It is an awful to kindle or make an open fire in any area other than a designated grills.
Well, I would say,
It's just
That's what I thought that
doubly
was covered.
making
It's already
it.
there.
Well,
making
he
it
said
is, but
No.
he didn't think that it, we felt strongly enough that that was working.
yeah, I think we need to specifically say no grills, because they'll say, well, it says you can't kindle or make an open fire,
Yeah, it can't hurt to make it more specific.
but I could put my grill or the other grill, so I think we need to be very specific about that.
And so what would we add to that then?
It is unlawful to kindle or make an open fire or
Okay,
Grill.
okay.
in any
Up there, George Foreman.
area other than designated grilling area. I would say in
Or
designated
grill.
grilling areas, and that would make it very clear.
All grill is a verb, right? Grill.
Grilling areas.
I got that part. Oh, designated grilling areas, yeah.
I think we also wanted to add something about no tents, too. Prohibit.
He said if we wanted to add the tent, we had to be specific about what that meant as well.
Okay.
That just saying no tents in the parking lot was, we have to be pretty specific on, are we putting it in designated area? Is that in the grassy area only? Does that mean no canopies on the beach?
Okay, Rick, we'll talk about that then, yeah, okay. We'll figure out how to word that.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's all in our wording.
all right.
Will the guards have a listing of when the upper area has been reserved, so that nobody tries to go up there and
Yes,
interfere
Yes.
with an existing?
yes.
We do that now.
Is there a
They
gate
do that
down there
already.
or something? I feel like there's a
Okay.
gate there that
They do
closes
that
it
already.
off. Yeah.
Okay.
But they know if somebody's rented a space, so, yeah, they know that already.
Just like at Jacob, same thing, they have a list of who has it. And we talked, I think, in the fall, and I talked to Ellen about ordering something. I think you folks want to put on the picnic pavilion, even if it's a
On the pavilion
whiteboard or
itself,
something.
reserved.
Just reserved for the
Yes.
Smith family or whatever, so that people, it's clear.
Understand. Yes.
When you just said that about gate, do you mean it's
The one
closed
in Hannah, it's really
when
simple.
when it's reserved, or you mean it's always closed?
I thought it was always
Just
closed,
says
Unless
reserved.
someone's reserved it,
Yeah.
too.
Oh, okay.
but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Quanapog, we should go up the hill, is there a gate that closes?
There is, but you can walk around it.
Yeah.
It's to keep from, really cars from.
Cars
Right.
going up, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll work on that.
But we did open that one, there were picnics up there, because we were trying to encourage, we
Encourage
made
cars to
parking
go
up
up to
there.
the- yes, for
So those
parking.
10 cars get out of the parking lot, 'cause we needed the space in the parking lot for the beach.
Okay. Okay, pickleball tennis courts at Adams. What's happening?
So the wetlands have been marked, and I just got a quote last week for a survey. Now we have to survey that also, create a survey. And then we'll get an engineer. An engineer's got to be hired to design the courts. But we have to get the approval from Wetlands Commission and Planning and Zoning, so
It'll be a while.
be a little while. We're starting to work on it, though. I got the wetlands guy did it and did the marking, and I just got the quote last week from Todd Anderson to do the survey. He's the one who did the Chaffinch.
So we've talked about, I think you and I have sort of talked, and you mentioned you weren't sure whether we could fit 2 pickleball courts there. I mean, what's it looking
I
like?
think we can fit 4.
I think we could fit 4.
Yep. The engineer who I've been kind of working with, he's been helping us guide us through this a little bit. He did like an aerial view of it and put a couple options for where parking can go and how the pickleball courts can fit in. I think we can do it.
Terrific.
As long as the Wetlands Commission doesn't say you got to be 100 feet away from wetlands, if that's the
All right,
case, then
if that's the case, then
we're-
there's 3. I mean,
we can't do that, yeah.
Okay.
But I think that we should be able to get, there's a pretty good possibility we can get 4 courts in there. Yeah.
I noticed in the camp, brochure programs too, that there's pickleball now for kids, though I think that's at the racket club, but you're, getting kids younger involved to use the courts later.
And I've already told the staff that don't plan on using Adams at all this summer, because that's when we think this is all going to happen. So we're not scheduling anything there.
All right.
Getting people moving.
Yeah.
Okay, and a reminder, the budget hearings are March 3rd and 5th, and we are on the...
3rd and 4th.
This is your 3rd and 5th.
That's
Tuesday.
tomorrow night here and Thursday. So tomorrow night's that's the hearing with everything, Board of Ed, and, so Matt gives his presentation of town stuff, and, the school side does their presentation, and it's just, the informational, really, it's the hearing, and then it's it's the presentation. And I think the deliberation starts on Thursday.
Do you know what time that starts tomorrow night?
I think it's 7:30. I'm sorry, I should have put that in here. I believe it's 7:30.
Okay, well, let us know when you find out. How's that?
7:30.
7:30. All right. New business. Well, I guess there's we have no other old business, are we good?
We're good.
All right, new business. So the first thing here is a request for a bench at the bocce court.
So that was the communication you got, one of the letters.
Right. So my first question was, what kind of bench?
I think she sent me a picture, and I'm sorry we didn't put that in the packet. I think it had a back on it. It was, it was a nice-looking bench, or it could be whatever you guys say. If you want it to look like something else that we already have.
Well, I guess my question also is, I think we could use a bench there. The question is, where do we put it exactly? Because we have that row of benches, and then in the back we have the concrete benches.
In the front, it's the aluminum benches, right?
In the front, it's all the aluminum benches,
yeah.
so it'd be kind of funny to stick it there in the middle of the aluminum benches.
I would think probably in the backside, maybe we get rid of one. Concrete ones can't be all that comfortable. We could get rid of 1 or 2 of those and replace it with this.
Yeah.
Be a little nicer bench.
I made a trip down there Saturday, and there's 6 concrete benches.
Yeah.
And we all have different views, but they're ugly,
Yeah.
and they can't be comfortable.
They were donated to us, that's why we have them.
Yeah.
We didn't buy them.
But we do sit on them all the time.
Oh,
Yeah, they are. They're used.
have they come?
No, but when you're at that end of the bocce court and you need to sit down, people are using them.
Are they comfortable, or?
Not particularly, but
Yeah.
it's, for
Better
some
than
people,
not sitting.
for some people, it's hard to stand.
But but this thing here, though, it says for Chittenden Park, the maximum, it just says 2 chairs. It doesn't, right?
Oh, when we looked at that for Chittenden Park, we were looking more at the water,
Oh, okay.
closer to
Oh, I
where
got
the
you,
water
okay.
is. The end of that trail, where the
Yeah,
dock
because,
is, where the boardwalk and that little dock is. Yeah,
because at
we're
the
thinking-
time, we felt the aluminum benches and the concrete benches, there was enough there. But, could we slowly replace
Well,
benches, like starting with this one, take a concrete
we
one
could
away
take a
and put
concrete
this
one
one
and
here.
put this there, and, I mean, we're still hoping we can pick up a couple more bocce courts within the next year
I
or
mean,
so.
Rose, you're down there. I mean,
So, yeah, if we replace the concrete ones, I don't see it being a problem.
So we're not adding to, we take one away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because with those concrete ones, it's BYOP, bring your own pillow.
So Rose, you're down there, they're getting used then, the benches.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah. All right, so do we need, I guess we need a motion?
I'll make a motion to remove a concrete bench at Lake Chittenden Park and add a bench for Joyce.
Before we vote, Rick, so you'll work with them, so we get a bench similar to all the other benches in town?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think she gave me a picture. It's probably in my email somewhere. I'll forward it to you all so you get to see it.
We want to keep it consistent.
We want to keep it consistent
Yeah.
throughout, so that if we have to move benches, we have the same benches, everywhere, so as long as it's consistent. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The house waste collection, I think you've pretty well addressed that.
Does that cost the town anything?
Doesn't cost us, because it's usually volunteers that you get that are working in there, but I don't know. I mean, it's no cost to
Who
them.
are the volunteers that are going to get?
They get them. I don't know. I think senior citizens, a lot of times they get. They get volunteers to go to the place in, was it Sergeant Drive, I think?
Sergeant Drive with the water company.
And there are certain times that the town of Guilford has to try to get some people to go there, and they look for, they come to us and ask for any seniors, volunteers that might want to go. I see it as a benefit for the town, so people in Guilford don't have to go to New Haven, have an opportunity to come right here.
And there's a long line in New Haven. I have done this, so it's welcomed. All right, a request from Guilford Youth Lacrosse for a scoreboard repaired at Maturo Field.
Okay, I have to ask which one
So-
is Maturo Field.
That's the
John.
field hockey or lacrosse field that's down by the baseball field.
It's between the baseball field and the football field.
Yeah. So here's the thing on that. So the scoreboard, I guess, hasn't worked. We really haven't had nothing to do with that scoreboard. I think the lacrosse, is it the Boosters Club there? They're looking for help because they want to fund part of it. I guess the athletic director said he would fund some of it. But I just want to point out that we have a scoreboard at Binder Park, in our own park, on the softball field. It hasn't worked in probably 20 years.
25.
Which we really should take it down. We just thought there wasn't any need for it anymore anyway. But I'm just pointing that out, in our own park, in our own fields, we have a scoreboard that we don't even use. And the ones that are out there have all been paid for and maintained by the group who uses them, like the soccer scoreboard at the soccer field. That had to get painted recently. The athletic director got somebody to paint it because it's used for the high school. Little League put one in down on the C field.
Right.
So,
Rick, why would they even come to us? Like, does the Park and Rec maintain that field?
we do the field, but that's
just
an
the field.
amenity, right.
Okay.
But not the scoreboards.
We don't do anything with the scoreboard. But they're looking to replace it with a solar-powered one for, it's about $8,000. We don't do anything with any scoreboards.
Yeah, so I don't know why we would kick in for it.
Yeah. I'm just painting the whole picture, because,
Right.
I'm not trying to steer against doing it, but we're not doing that with anything else right now, and if it's something that,
Is it a precedent we want to start?
and quite frankly, I don't know if we're
No.
coming out of our contracted service budget, but we're spending money out of that for surveys that we have to do, and CAM
Right.
applications and things like that we didn't anticipate we'd have to do.
Yeah,
So I think maybe we can politely explain all of that we have been spending a lot on other things at this point, and we really haven't put money into scoreboards, so we don't really think we want to start a precedent, I guess.
I agree.
they're on their
Yeah.
own.
I mean, I think we do enough to support our sports in town. And I think we go sometimes above and beyond with our fields, in accommodating for our sports teams. So,
Well, Rick is right. All the scoreboards that have been installed at every field have been done by the sports associations.
Right.
Every one of them, including the one at Nut Plains, the newest one at Nut
Right.
Plains.
That's right, I forgot about that one, right.
Okay.
They even
All
pay the electrical cost for that,
They pay
the lacrosse club was.
Yep.
Okay, and lastly, the annual report.
Yeah, I just brought, I'm
Basically,
sorry, that wasn't in the packet, I
FYI.
meant to put in there, but it's just for you to look at and see it. That was submitted a few weeks ago, and, but if you go to the last page, you see some of the facts and figures there, that the statistics for 2018-19. Like 34,546 lunches, 20,000 participants, 745 classes and events.
That's crazy. Total participate, 20,000 people.
All right.
Wow.
I have to say, the sports, the camps
Yeah.
numbers, I mean, I wish there was a chart that showed, because, I mean, the numbers have been outstanding in the last few years.
I'd be curious to know how many people on a weekly basis walk in and out of this building. And is there a simple way, I mean, of course you're not going to have somebody count it. Is there like an electrical, to make it?
Well, you know, I mean, it's a fair question. I think about 20-something years ago, one year I kept track of it. It was 150,000 people in a year coming through here.
How'd you
I didn't
keep
take it.
track of
It was clearly some estimate. I looked at, we know, like if somebody rents a room and they say, you know, set up for 30 people, we have a record of all that. So I went back through all the year's records, everything, every event in the building, and I looked at every meeting, everything that was in here. It took a long time to figure it out, but, like, back then we were doing some junior high dances, that was like 400 kids, so that's definitely elevated the numbers, but, you know, you look at a SIL program like the one that's coming up, there'll be probably 120 people in here. So I think the numbers are probably well over that now, but, because we do a lot more programs than we did then. Then we had 4 or 6 aerobics classes, now we have like 30 between aerobics and yoga.
And don't forget, we have 3 doors.
Yeah, there's no way to really.
No way to really.
Take a clicker, it's really, if we look at how many people are in programs and how many people that they say are for a meeting. Now, this would be skewed, because in the reservation form, might say, set up chairs for 50, but we don't have 50 people here tonight, so there's no way to get it 100% accurate, but we can get kind of an estimate, but.
Well, I mean, but your number doesn't even account for like all the people that just walk in and pay for something or
Right.
register for something, so. I
So
mean-
that was 150,000, how long ago?
I would say it was probably like around 1995, something like that. That was 20-something years ago I did that.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, it's an amazing number of people that come in and out of here every day.
It's impressive.
Okay, the only other,
I just said, about the annual report, is there a way that we can get this annual report on our website?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think it's important that the citizens of the town realize what the Parks and Recreation Commission and the department has accomplished over the last year. I mean, there,
Puts all the annual reports into a book, they publish them next, towards the end of the
well,
fiscal year.
even with that, I still think this ought to be put on our website so people can take a look to see what we've done.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't hurt.
I mean, there are some rather significant accomplishments that have been made in the last 12 months, and even the 12 months prior to that, which have made things a lot nicer within town. Something as simple as we argued for a long time over the dog park. Dog park gets one line, but I can tell you, I drive past that all the time, and it is a hub of activity.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. For all those who, I hate not to sound sarcastic, but for those naysayers who thought it was going to be an encumbrance on the town, it is actually a very positive attribute that we've created.
And very low cost, and it's pretty much overseen by volunteers.
Right. And also the recognition to the Boy Scouts for what they've done over the year. I mean, there is a significant amount of contribution that comes from outside of just the employees of the Park and Recreation
And I
Department.
have a whole section on that in the
Yes.
report of all their projects.
Mhm.
And actually, page 3, I talk about, because I didn't try to figure out how many people are in the building, but I did, through Nancy, found out how many reservations. We had 4,800 room reservations that year. Now, that includes our own programs. It's not, outside groups or reservists. Every time something goes into the computer, so if it's an aerobics class or gymnastics, she has a way to get that take that out of Rec Track and tell me how many reservations we had. So I didn't use the numbers of people, but 4,800 reservations is pretty good. It's a lot of activity.
I wanted to point out last weekend, or not this weekend, but the weekend before, I went to Special Olympics for Connecticut Tumblers. My daughter helps coach. And I can't tell you, we've been involved for about 5 years or so, but there's very few programs in the state. There's only 2, and they compete, Tumblers, and it's one other group in Fairfield County. But it's such a community. I can't even begin to tell you how important it is to the families. They come from as far away as Stratford to come up here and do this because there aren't programs. But I've watched the community grow, and I'm grateful for the support of you and from the town for this program. So.
Well, I would even take it a step further. I mean, there may be some things that we've missed along the last year or so that the townspeople should be able to come in and tell us. Like the young lady tonight who said she was disappointed in the Vintner Park playground. Okay, well, that's a project that we could possibly work on for the next couple of years, to find something to make a town playground a little bit better.
We actually have that in our 5-year capital plan to upgrade. I said Jacobs Beach, but it could be Bittner. I mean, it was like $150,000.
Hey, right over here would be nice playground, right over here, right back there. For the kids.
So,
No grilling.
2 things.
That's right.
I did send you, I thought I sent you I found the name of the person who wanted the bench for.
Yep.
So
Was it Wexler? Was that the name? I think? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think perhaps we should contact her again and see if while we still have a bench.
You mean for the splash pad?
The splash pad. Yes, because it was on the agenda. So can we contact, I know I found it and sent it to you, but then I forgot.
Yeah, thank you, because I couldn't remember who it was.
Okay. And then the only other thing I would say is our addendum to the policy on memorials, on benches and things. Cross off Peddler's Park, because that doesn't come under our purview anymore.
It's officially gone.
It is officially gone. It's been officially gone. We don't control peddlers anymore, so that's not our park.
Who has it now again?
Conservation?
Or Land Trust? Who's Land Trust?
Yeah, I think they gave a conservation easement to the land trust, I believe.
So it's really not our problem. All right, any other business?
Can I just ask, since we're on that one?
Sure.
Rollwood Park,
Yeah, well,
with the new talk of housing there, doesn't infringe on the park, right? Or will they be taking some of that? Because if we don't need to have, if they're going to take it over, then really is it our jurisdiction anymore?
I think it's going to be, it's more toward the driveway, the road that goes to our garage. I think it's more there, but I believe they are talking about a driveway coming through there to the left.
The pictures made it look very close to the GCC, so I would assume that would be very close to Rollwood
yeah. So
Park.
I think we have to wait and see how that plays out before we can make a decision on that.
I think the actual housing units are going to be farther back, but there's going to be 2 ways of access, one from driveway and one, I think, from Stonehouse Road there.
Okay, any other business? All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Are we off?